And I believe we should be good. And do you want me to send you the link or anything? I just tweeted it out if that works.
Let me just do that. Boom, boom, boom. There you go.
And I'll mute it, and there we go. If that works. Cool. It'll be a special surprise that you're with me. This last minute is awesome.
Yeah, very perfect. Absolutely perfect. Get that out of there.
All right, we've got 12 people already. Hey, Raul, how's it going? Hey, everybody. We'll wait for just a few more people to show up, and then we'll get started.
I'm muted. Is that right? Can you hear me or no?
I believe they should be able to. Let us know if you can hear Jack. Happy Easter, Michael. Jack, can you say something again?
Yep, I'm sorry. Everybody hear me?
Yeah, they're saying they can hear you fine. Cool. Awesome.
Good.
So how do you want me to start? Do you want to share your screen? I can share my screen. There we go. I'll just let you do it. If you want to bring up the cues or something like that.
1 second. This is getting to be redundant. That's why. Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, did you have the video playing in the background?
I did. I'm like, what the heck is going on, man? All right. Yeah. So let me go pull up a quick chart here.
Perfect.
Can you see this chart?
I can't see it just yet. I think you have to share your screen on Zoom.
Shared. Boom. Share. How's that?
Yep, I see it. People are saying if you could increase the gain on your mic or maybe just speak a little bit louder or move it closer. Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, that seems a little bit louder. Let us know if that's good, guys.
Yep. Is that too much or is that okay?
No, it's good for me if it's good for them. If you guys don't mind, go ahead and leave a like down below in the video, just so it's boosted for the YouTube algorithm, of course. And, yep, there's the tweet.
Perfect. I'm actually going to open this up on the other side. And this way I could kind of follow along just a little bit.
Hey, Brian, how's it going? My friend Brian's here.
Awesome. All right. Put that to here.
Happy Easter, everybody. Whoever's celebrating, happy Easter.
Absolutely. All right. You guys ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, let's get to it.
All right. So, I mean, my take on the market, and let me know if you see it differently.
Yeah.
We had the double bottom, we had the breakout, we had the retest of the breakout. It was successful, right? It held. And now we're kind of making this right side of this base. This is obviously we're right at maybe the next
point of
resistance right there. So, if it backs off just a little bit and makes a higher low, no big deal, the way I look at it. This was the start of the uptrend, so I put an anchored VWAP from there, which held right here. So that was kind of neat. And then where it touched here, I also put one. And so far, this is like my next level that I'm looking at. I don't put I'm not trading off this level, but it's a point of interest.
Right.
That's kind of like, and I was watching this downtrend line right here too. I thought this was going to be an important area. Once it broke it here, that's when I changed my kind of outlook from a more neutral perspective to a bullish perspective on the market.
Oh, Jack, would you mind checking if you've got the video open? Some people are saying your voice is doubling. Or maybe for all of you watching, if you've got the video open, maybe on Twitter and here, check that first, just in case. But Jack, I completely agree. I think there's anchored VWAPs or something I may be using a little bit more. I got to watch some Brian Shannon webinars or something to really get familiar with them. But yeah, last week, I think every close was positive. We saw Monday a slight move down, but a strong close. Tuesday, same thing with a nice close supporting on that anchored VWAP. And then Wednesday and Thursday were super strong gap up days where it's kind of hard start new positions and define risk on those days because everything's moving up. But it's super bullish action. And like you said, if we consolidate a little bit, have some inside days, I think that'd be very constructive and set up a lot of stocks in the right hand sides.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So, I mean, that's really, looking at, is the market on your side? I think I'm comfortable with saying that it's likely that the market will be on our side going forward over the next, days and weeks and hopefully months.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll take it day by day, but for now, the short-term trend is up. We'll see if we can breach that resistance point and challenge those all-time highs. Just like, I mean, if you go to the SPX, it's even stronger. It's breaking out to all-time highs, the most bullish signal you can have. So in terms of the market, I'm positive. I'm looking to increase my exposure at this point.
Absolutely. And actually, you know what, and let's bring it down to the RSP, because I like the RSP, which is the equal weight,
Yep.
S&P, and it's right there at all-time highs also. So we're not saying this is Apple and Amazon, Google, Facebook pushing it higher.
Right.
This is a broad rally.
Right.
So I think that's also a good perspective.
Absolutely. So I guess now we've talked about the market a little bit. I guess we'll go through a few different stocks that we're watching. We both made our focus list videos, and we're watching a couple of the same stocks. If you bring up Orgo, I know that was on your list as well. To me, this looks super strong, but it might need a little bit more time. It's just consolidated for like 7 days here. So despite the super strong trend it's had, I'm not really going to be jumping in on a whole new position on a break of the downtrend line just because it's setting up. It's gotta relax and consolidate a little bit more before I'd be interested. Same with UPST, such a powerful stock, but it's pretty volatile. It's up and down, and unless you can kind of buy it on a pullback to maybe that anchored VWAP, which has been a great spot, it's hard to define your risk up here when the range on this past Thursday was so wide. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I put this line right in here. I don't trust this line right here. This one I could easily move to some other point. You know what I'm saying? I think this is the one I'd be more, I'm watching more.
Right.
Is this top line. But this one, this could be kind of choppy within a range area, basically.
Yeah, I would love for this to go sideways for 1 or 2 more weeks. That would be super bullish. I think that monster volume, that is institutions buying. But you like we saw with pins. Just because institutions bought a few days ago doesn't mean it's going to go right away. It might take a few weeks. And we're talking about pins way back after its monster gap up. It chopped around for a few weeks, frustrated everybody who tried to buy the breakouts. There's actually one more earnings gap up back, Jack, if you go back to that. No, go back. There's huge volume. So see how we had this monster gap up, and then it frustrated everybody who tried to buy the breakout, failing 1, 2, 3 times before ultimately going. So just because there's that huge volume doesn't mean it's going to go right away. You have to wait for it to set up and buy at nice low risk entries against those moving averages.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
But I like pins right now. I think it's the strongest of kind of the former leaders. It had really nice moves on Wednesday and Thursday, and it's kind of leading the Nasdaq a little bit because it's a little bit stronger. And like I said with the Nasdaq, if it kind of pulls back a little bit back to that level, that's a good low risk, high reward entry potentially.
Sure, around $75 or so, somewhere around there.
Exactly.
Yeah, looks real good.
Yeah. What do you think about a lot of the other former leaders, Jack, like apps and some of the ones that are hit a little bit harder, like Peloton and Neo?
I'll be honest, apps is on my watch list this week, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
You're not seeing the volume on this side come in. It's just not as loved right now. So, and it's below this area right here too. I think $100, it's again, there's 18, 19, 20% between now and $100.
Yeah.
But for me, for a longer term name and not to be chopped around back and forth, I'd want to see it breaking out above 100.
Yeah.
And see volume that looks like this.
Yeah.
We're kind of missing that on this side of the chart. There's too many other charts that are showing volume, like Vuzi. Something like this.
Big blue bars right there. That's easy to see. Easy to spot.
Easy to see. It's on the right side of the chart, and so like this gets me more interested than apps, just because the way it's set. Not that it's bad, and again, if somebody's already has a position and is a position trader, it looks like it wants to go higher, but we're just not there yet.
Right. And it's still, even though it's setting up in a nice consolidation here, it's still a little bit volatile. But it had a very, I like how it ended the last week. I mean, it had a nice consolidation pivot breakout there, back above the 50. With pins, I think it's one of the stronger old leaders, just because it is back above that moving average. But if you bring out something like Neo, I saw some tweets about this. It is kind of forming a double bottom looking thing, but it's kind of a weak pattern because it's 50% deep, and it just looks to me like it needs more time to build out a base if it's going to be symmetrical. 50% bases aren't really my thing. I like buying the strongest stocks in the market, and the strongest stocks are going to be near all-time highs. This still has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the things that just stands out to me is that I'm looking for stocks that barely basically didn't break my 23-day EMA, which is the purple line right here.
Right.
Things that got underneath the 23-day EMA, they didn't hold up in relative strength, right? They didn't hold up the same way that they could have.
Right.
So that takes this off the list, and still underneath the 23-day EMA and still declining.
Yeah.
So not interested.
Yeah. Yeah, if you put a 200-day on there, I don't know if you want to do that quickly, but we can just talk about it. There's people who buy really well off the 200-day moving average, and this might be in their wheelhouse, but that's just not my personal risk profile, risk appetite. So it's not kind of my preferred setup. But there's people who do that well and can be very successful with it. It's just not my style.
I agree. I agree. What else you got? Anything? What some favorites that you have going on?
Let's see. Let me open up my watch list. I like. Let's see. Let's bring up Bumble and Airbnb because I think these are kind of two potential double bottoms type. This is a recent issue, so it's going to be higher risk. I'm not going to go a full size position in this, but it just barely undercut that on this past Friday, the recent low. And if you're quick enough, that might have been a good low risk entry. I didn't catch that, but we'll see how it develops from here and if it can challenge kind of that midpoint of this base.
I mean, this is one that I got from your video this afternoon. Actually, Bumble, it had not been on my radar, but yeah, it looks interesting. Thing needs a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But it definitely almost like a reopening play, right?
Yeah, exactly. And similarly, we've got Airbnb, which is a very good reopening play.
Which was Airbnb? Which one?
Airbnb, ABNB.
Oh, Airbnb.
Yeah. Yeah, if people are going to be traveling, they're going to have to stay somewhere. It's ABNB, sorry.
ABNB, thanks.
Yep. And this similarly back above the 50, but I would like to see it go sideways for a few days, some inside days before establishing a position. But I love the fund ownership in this. We've already got 5 of the IBD flagship funds owning shares. We've already got 500 funds overall owning shares. So this has a lot of institutional support behind it, which gives me a little bit more added conviction in my mind.
Yeah. And one of the things that these newer IPOs, and I love, with stocks within the first 3 years of coming on the market, the one thing that I've got burned once or twice is when they announce an offering, which it always makes me nervous when it's a newer name like this.
Right.
An offering could be around the corner. Not saying it's going to be, I have no idea, but that's one of those things. It's like, you get burned after hours, right? And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Who was it that just had an offering that got absorbed really, really well? Was it Select Quote?
I can't remember. It could have been SLQT is worth bringing up though, because this is one I'm watching as well. Nice breakout last week.
So that's from the IPO right here.
Yep.
And it got kind of choppy in here, and now started tighten up a little bit, and then hopefully moving back to the upside here.
Yeah, you've got to pivot around 30. This is in the kind of turbulent zone for those of you who have read The Life Cycle Trade by Kathy Donnelly, Eve Bobach. Great book. So around this area where it's just meeting the first resistance of its IPO high, there's going to be a lot of choppiness, a lot of all of that. So look for a push through that level, and then you can really see some explosions. A lot of the greatest stocks last year in 2020, Zoom, Peloton, Fiverr, you name it, exploded from that level, and that's when they really went on to make some really extraordinary gains. So I always like looking at stocks that are consolidating nicely, forming a proper base, showing accumulation right around that level.
Yeah, looks pretty good. And again, very clean area to manage risk against, whether you choose the $30 level or the this $28, $29 level.
Yeah,
Very clean, very, very clean.
absolutely.
You know which one came on my list again from an old leader was Future.
Yep, yep.
That one looked, boom, had some kind of, fairly organized consolidation, which I like. And now it's kind of breaking out from this downtrend with some good volume coming in too. I think this one has a chance to move in higher. It's not really a high tape flag, I don't think, is it?
It's definitely deeper than I think the high tide flag. It was about I think it was a 40-50% base, which gives me pause. But like I said, it's acting much better than Neo was, at least. And it's kind of within the character of the stock to have pretty deep bases.
Yeah. So it pulled back 50%, but again, it's kind of now breaking out. So it was one that was interesting to me coming into this week.
Yeah, like I've said for a couple others, if this can go sideways for a week and drift sideways below that kind of midpoint right there, that would be much more actionable, I think, just because you kind of have a better level to play against. But yeah, this has great estimates for the next few years. We'll see what happens. A lot of eyes on this as well, so that might be a factor as well.
Exactly.
Let me bring out the chat. I haven't been looking at any questions at all. People are saying it was MP who... Oh, no. MP didn't absorb the offering well.
But it's right here.
Yeah. Oh, Joe Fami's here. How's it going?
Hey, Joe. What's going on?
Perfect. Just checking if there's any questions here. Yeah, and with that, I think we'll open it up to any suggested charts that you guys want to look at. We're happy to give our takes on it. And I should have said this at the beginning, but anything said in this live stream is for educational purposes only. Both Jack and I are amateurs, just kind of giving our takes on the market. So make sure to practice good risk management and do your own due diligence.
Yeah, we got Trader Lions in here too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How's it going? Perfect. We've got some suggestions here. ASO. How about that one?
Academy Sports.
So this has just been a powerhouse since its IPO. Look at that.
Pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah.
A lot of volume coming into after earnings.
Yep.
Breaking out. Something like that. Yeah, that's pretty good, right? Now, it depends on your risk tolerance. If you want to be involved, that was a 7-8% move. But yeah, that looks great.
Yeah. I usually like to set a stop at the low of the breakout day or the low of the day before that. So it's a little bit extended for me. But if it pulls back like AMAT did and kind of consolidates for a few days, that's a pretty good low risk entry if it bounces back to that breakout level, which a lot of them end up doing. So that's why I don't like chasing up there, just because it's either likely to pull back, shake me out, or it'll give me a better entry later on.
Sideways or something.
Yep, exactly. And could you actually bring up AMAT just so I can show what I was talking about? So AMAT had a breakout and then 2 very tight days that gave you basically a golden chance to get back in if you didn't catch that first breakout. And then it just took off Thursday and Friday, or actually Wednesday and Thursday. The chips have been so strong. So yeah, just that's a great thing to look out for after that. That's acting beautifully after a breakout.
And look, the inside days right here, just, from this big bar right here, I think that just shows the accumulation that was going on under the surface too.
Exactly.
All right, what we got next?
How about let's do Uber.
All right.
What do you think about this one?
Well, it's choppy and a little bit loose in here. I would like, if I was going to be involved in this one, I'd want to see this kind of tighten up a little bit, So it's one on my watch list. Accumulation, it's okay.
Yeah, same here. I think it's a little bit choppy. Lift, actually, to me, if you want to bring that up, the fundamental numbers are nowhere near as good as Uber, but the chart is a lot tighter and setting up nicely right below that kind of key resistance point over on the left-hand side. So this looks good on an undercut and reclaim of the 23, which I think that line is that you have, or just a breakout through that level. I think this looks pretty strong. And it's shown a lot of RS and good volume accumulation during this uptrend.
Yeah. And as it's consolidating, notice how there's a decrease in volume right here.
Exactly.
I think that's really strong too, right there.
Yeah. Nobody's really selling at this level, so we'll see what happens. Yeah. That's on my focus list. Let's see. Somebody's saying that Uber has some VCP characteristics. If you bring that chart back up, I don't think that's a proper VCP. A VCP has to really get tighter and tighter with each coil. Just because it's going up and down doesn't make it a VCP. It has to get tighter and tighter on lower volume. You really want to see the VCP both in the chart and also the volume. The volume is decreasing a little bit, but you really want to see it dry up in volume along that base. I'll probably tweet out a good example, but if you look at PLTR in the IPO base, that was a VCP right there. There's just no volume on that last contraction. What's another good one? We've got NNOX, I think was a good one. It had a good move. Yep, right there. That's a VCP. So you really want to see tightening and tightening and tightening. Just going up and down doesn't make it quite a volatility contraction pattern, which is from Mark Minervini. So, here's a great suggestion. I know you covered this one in your video, PUBM, which had a nice breakout on Thursday.
Did. Wait, boom. Yeah, and I like this one a lot. It's a little bit loose still, and I still see a lot of topping wicks in here, so I'm not 100% sold on it, but it's showing up on all my scans, literally all three of my scans.
Yeah.
And I was above the VWAP from the IPO and also from this big bar right here. So I think it may need a little bit more time, but this one is definitely on my focus list to watch.
Right. And to me, it looks like there are some pivots that it triggered on this past Thursday. So definitely actionable on last Thursday. But if you missed it, it will probably give you a good entry point before it really takes off. So there's no rush to get into a stock that broke out and you missed. There'll be other opportunities with that stock or just with the thousands of other stocks literally in the market. So never feel rushed to make a trade, and don't force trades if it doesn't meet your risk appetite.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are saying skills. Do you want to bring that up?
Your skills. It really took a beating during this downturn.
It did.
Absolute beating.
This is why stop losses are so essential. Look at that.
Yeah. So this pulled back. Let's just see what this pulled back from top to bottom. 63%.
So that's deep. That's a deep correction right there.
Yep. This needs a lot more time.
Yeah. It's just not my style at all to buy it down here. If it's gonna go to 1,000, it's gonna have to go through 49 or whatever again. So yeah. How about Riot? Because this is an interesting one because it's setting up a little bit. I believe it's crypto related. So this looks a little bit more like a VCP to me. It's contracting a little bit, forming higher lows. It would need kind of one more contraction to really set things up. But look at the volume within the space. There's no selling whatsoever. So this is interesting. SI I think is the kind of fundamental leader in the space, but it's definitely a little bit wider and loose. But yeah, you've definitely got those clear trend lines that you've got drawn there, Jack.
Something like that.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely watching this one though. I got a nice gain here. She got shaken out, and we'll see what happens if it sets up again.
Yeah, SI. It's funny. This is one that I never got involved with for whatever reason. But yeah, that was a beautiful breakout right back here. Look at that.
Yeah, I didn't catch it back then. I got the kind of high tight flag breakout. Yeah, right there, right in that area. That was a nice breakout, and a huge upside reversal bar. The bar prior to that as well. Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah. That's perfect. And that's the thing. It had run up so much, got extended, and then boom, just kind of went sideways. There was earnings right here, and then after earnings, you saw the upside reversal. That said, buyers showed up and supported it, and boom, off to the races.
Absolutely. And this is why I think UPST and ZIM, even though they look a little bit like high tight flags, might need more time because they've only consolidated for 8 days. Even SI was a little bit short with about 20 to 25 days. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm just a little bit hesitant. I don't want to get shaken out. And yeah, that's just kind of my take on. We haven't brought up ZIM yet, but that's definitely a leader potentially in the market. So I think that's a good chart to look at. Is this one on your radar at all?
Which one? ZIM? ZIM? Or?
Yep, ZIM.
No, this one is not. First I'm seeing it. Let's take a look.
Yeah, it had a nice kind of IPO high tight flag, and then now it's consolidating above that level.
Yeah, no, that looks great.
Yeah,
that looks really nice. What do they do? Integrated shipping services. All right.
I think they're actually blockchain. They're incorporating blockchain with shipping is kind of the short story that I've heard. I'm no expert at all, but the numbers are pretty strong as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'll write that one down. Here's one that I was looking at. I don't know if it's on other people's radars or not. Was PLAB Photronics.
Oh, I haven't seen this one yet.
Yeah. So this is one that I've been kind of watching. It's got this long kind of consolidation after the move down. Let's see, that was back in 2020, and now it's just been basing, going sideways. There's some good volume that's showing up here. So if we can get above 1350-ish or so, I think that's a great place to manage risk against on this one. And again, starting to see some of that volume really show up, which I kind of like.
Yeah. Do you know what they do?
I think it's a semiconductor name, but I'm not 100%.
I'll actually bring up Marketsmith over here and give it a quick check. Yeah, I mean, if it's related to semiconductor, it should be getting a nice boost. Yeah, semiconductor. So it's in a top group, 1991, 97. Not the biggest growth numbers from earnings and sales, but yeah, it's right within a stage one cup with handle pivot at this moment as per Marketsmith. So yeah, definitely interesting.
Yeah, that was fun.
To me, that large gap down puts me off a little bit right there, but it was supported off the lows, kind of like CELH was. So we'll see if it can work.
Yes, let's pull CELH. This was kind of like a, I don't know, falling wedge-ish type look to it to me. So, and man, look at this volume coming in.
Yeah,
that's good.
And it retook that level from my chat with George Kachuk, who is the money manager, U.S. Investment Champion in 2020. Anytime there's huge volume like that, that closing level becomes a very important, basically, pivot point. And it just retook that on Thursday. So that's kind of a high volume close. So definitely interesting. Maybe not top of my list, but we'll see if you can form out the right side here. And I mean, this is a promising company with great numbers. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I can tell you, no, they're based out of Boca Raton. Down here, literally everybody drinks Celsius. Like everybody, it's ridiculous.
You've got a fridge full of it, I'm sure.
Actually, maybe.
Yeah, but definitely an interesting stock. And yeah. I mean, it's run in the past. So I love seeing how, I love looking to the left and seeing a strong uptrend. That gives me more conviction about the stock and company.
Absolutely. All right. TXG is up there. You want to do TXG?
Yeah, let's do it. We just got to comments about that. You want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, it's on my watch list, actually. This one was on my watch list and looks good. Again, a little bit loose, though, for me. But if it could start to tighten up in here, I do like the volume, how it looks like accumulation's happening. So we need maybe a little bit more time to tighten up, but I like this one.
Yeah, I think the story is pretty interesting with this one as well. I believe they're doing modeling for kind of vaccines, biotech type stuff. And I think they've got Bill Gates as a investor. So definitely a very interesting story. And the fund sponsorship with this one, I think they've got a ton of the IBD flagship fund. So something special is going on with this company, and we just have to wait for a nice setup. And it looks like it just took out a pivot last week. So yeah, definitely interesting. Let's see. And let me know, Jack, because I know you have to go in a few minutes, so don't let me hold you here. We've got some comments about GM. Why don't we bring that one up?
Oh, Motors.
What do you think about this one?
So GM isn't really in my wheelhouse of stocks that I tend to look for, but I'm not going to discount that just because, I may have a bias against it. I don't love the volume in here. And I think that if the news reports of chip shortages and slower production happen, so maybe the story could be a negative on this. If they can't produce cars and trucks and SUVs, then their sales are going to take a hit on that. And that could be, I think, maybe a problem going forward for some of the car companies.
Yeah, definitely. Those are valid points. I like the over. If we go to the kind of a longer term time frame, if you go to a weekly, it just broke out of a pretty long term base, which I thought was interesting, and had a nice inside week last week. So the price action looks decent, but like you said, if they can't sell cars, they can't make money, which won't translate to great earnings. So we'll see what happens with GM. Let's see. Any others that are really top of your list that you wanted to talk
Uh,
about?
Let me take a look here.
We definitely got plenty of suggestions here.
I like RADA. So that's the
Yeah,
aerospace thing. Hold on,
yeah,
that's one of the stuff, right?
that came up on my screens for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with Kathy Wood, sorry, with her ARC X fund, I think it's one of the components of the ARC X, and again, beautiful accumulation coming in here. It kind of broke out of this area. Let's just go a little further here. Let's go weekly.
Has that double bottom look a little bit on daily too.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it was been around for a little while now, and just been basing. Just recently, back in November, broke out, and just kind of nice and organized right in here.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's one that's on my watch list that I really like.
Yeah, absolutely. And ArcX, is that's the new space ETF that she's.
Space ETF.
Yeah.
It's half space ETF, half other stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. They've got like placeholders in there, like PDD, right? So, which doesn't seem related at all. But yeah, definitely interesting. Does she have a lot of the kind of 3D printing stocks in that one as well?
ETF.
She has the ETF.
Yeah, she put the ETF in there.
An ETF within an ETF. Interesting.
Yes. Yeah, right.
Go ahead.
I said I like a lot of the airlines, but I like I actually own some jets right now because I think the airlines, if I want to play a reopening play, and I actually own some of this, whether it's United or JetBlue or any Alaska Air, whoever, I kind of like the way this looks actually.
Mm-hmm.
So not really a growth play per se, but I do like how it looks like there's good accumulation going on in this one, and this would be more for a swing trade, see how far it could take me, and then get out of it.
Yeah, and I think it was 11.9 that everything gapped up. That was kind of reopening type plays. Maybe that was probably the day all the vaccines were announced, where Peloton and Zoom gapped down on everybody. But yeah, since then there was kind of a big shift. Yeah, right there. And speaking of Peloton, this is another one that's definitely needs a little bit more time, back near the 200-day moving average. If you've got a low cost basis, I mean, it's just pulling back to the longer term 40-week, 200 days. So we'll see what happens here and if it can form out this base and form a right side. Let's see. We've got some more. How about SE? Everybody wants to hear about SE.
I mean, I don't know. What do you think about this one? You go for this one.
It's not top of my list. Kind of like it looks like one of the better of the previous leaders. Kind of like Pins and Futsu. It's back above that key 23 EMA. The volume isn't superb, but I mean it's building a right hand side. I don't know if it's going to go straight off the bottom to the top here and break out to all-time highs, but it'll probably give a pretty good low risk entry before that point at some week in the near future.
Yeah, and it may chop around for 2, 3, 4 months for all we know.
Absolutely, but a super strong prior uptrend. I know they're growing super fast, and yeah, we'll see what happens. One to have on a watch list somewhere, definitely. How about MU? I've seen a couple messages about that one.
Yeah, MU. I mean, it looks pretty good. It looks like it just had earnings, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this is above 95, but then you have the psychological 100 level there. So that wouldn't stop me from entering it if I liked it, but I am cognizant of where it is in relation to $100 because it just seems to have some kind of effect on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the right industry, right? It's in the right sector.
Mm-hmm.
And this gap, even though this is a red bar, this actually, it was a positive day.
Yeah.
It just closed lower than the gap up, which is why this bar is red, and filled in bar right here, obviously. But yeah, this looks good. So it's a breakout though. Above 95, you can manage risk against it. It's in the right sector. Nothing bad. I like on Semiconductors a little bit better in this sector. And I know Joe, if he's still on, he turned me on to this one. But to me, it's breaking out right over here. So it's a nice place to manage risk. Nice accumulation volume happening. I think it's got room to run personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many strong stocks related to semiconductors, LRCX, AMAT. All of those look really, really good, breaking out in huge volume.
For sure.
Yeah. What's kind of in your mind kind of the leading groups of this uptrend so far? because semiconductors is definitely a key theme. But there, for me at least, there's not really that many themes going on like there was last year with all the computer software groups.
I think fintech.
Yeah, fintech.
I think fintech, Upstart, LPRO. Did we mention LPRO yet? Open
No,
Lending?
not yet. I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah. So I like LPRO here in this sector. Again, some gigantic bars coming in here. I think fintech is going to be where the next some of the next leaders come from. Um, you know, obviously semiconductors, genetics, they're all going to be in that mix too.
Right.
But I'm just seeing like Futu is part of that group, right? Who else? Like Upstart, whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's where it's at, fintech. And let's just Square just for fun.
Yep. Building out the right hand side.
And PayPal, gotta look at both of those. Square looks better, kind of to me. But that's what I think. How about you? Where do you think the next group is going to come from?
It's tough to call. I think stuff still has to develop a little bit. Yeah, I think it's tough. Semiconductor is only the clear one in my mind. But like you said, fintech has been working. Futu is part of that too. Tiger doesn't look nearly as good. It's definitely kind of the lower quality. It's just so far off the peak right now. Yeah, I think it also got crushed by the hedge fund that got liquidated. So, but yeah, we'll see. Stuff still has to clear up a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see what groups recover and if some of the groups from the past 2020 run are among that, or if it completely rotates to a different area of the market.
So you know what else is kind of interesting too is like some of the aluminum and mineral tech names like PXD. Like that's one that's on my watch list, and I'm just it looks nice, right?
Look at those bars, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously let's zoom out because that tells the whole story here. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it's let's go weekly. It's coming off the bottom. I mean, there may be some overhead supply up here near 200, but that's a decent run to 200. Yeah, so PXD looks kind of neat, and this other one, CENX, it's an aluminum name. Let's just go back to daily. Again, it's got these, it looks like people want to be involved in this name,
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's just interesting. Not that I think that'll be a future leader, but they're just interesting names on my list.
Yeah, the steel group as well has been strong, not just aluminum. Yeah, X is one I'm watching, a nice retest of the pivot here on Thursday on lower volume than the breakout. So we'll see what happens with these. If there's a huge infrastructure build, that might affect stocks like this. But yeah, look at that uptrend. I mean, that's clear.
Absolutely. That looks great. Looks great. All right. You want to do one or two more? Then I'm going to have to run on you after that.
Yeah, no problem. You pick then if you see some that look good.
Let's take a look. Let's go back a little bit. And let's see. FLGT is in here a few times, so let's look at that one. FLGT.
Sure.
Flugent Genetics had a great up, pulled back, sideways. I don't love the way this is looking here, and it's still underneath the 23-day EMA. So it's not one that I would be involved with at this point. If it kind of can round out here and come back up, that's a different story. But as of right now, not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's also a little bit deeper of a base than I would like. I don't think it's 50%, but it's more on the 40% range than the 20 to 30% range. So it actually is 57.
50.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd wait. I'm not trying to catch bottoms. I want to buy the stronger stocks, pulling back to moving averages and good low risk entry points. So this isn't my type of setup.
Yeah. All right, let's do one more for me, and I'm gonna say Himax. I've seen a lot of people. It's funny. I was watching the stock years ago, almost like a $5 stock.
Yeah.
And
you should have bought it, Jack.
I know, right?
How didn't you know? Why didn't you know?
Back, years ago, like back in this area here, right? It was nothing. And if you think about it, I'm glad I didn't, because then I'd be in it doing nothing for how many years, right?
I would have lost patience for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It did nothing, but now it's here, and let's just kind of do this. So that
Nice.
it's funny. I changed the color of my support and resistance lines, and you can see this was a really old one.
Right, right.
All right, here we go. But I mean, recently, and I think if I remember, what they were doing way back in the day was virtual reality stuff and augmented reality chips. I don't know if they're still doing that, but probably. But you know, it's a beautiful uptrend, and now it's kind of making this rounding, you know, right side of the base.
Yep.
Maybe a double bottom-ish look to it, but a lot of accumulation coming in this name. So it's definitely one that looks interesting.
Yeah, definitely a super powerful uptrend before this base. And yeah, with any base that I'm looking at, I want to see a really strong prior uptrend before that happens. I think that just adds to the probabilities that the trend will continue once the base either confirms to the upside or whether it falls apart, whatever. It just adds to the probabilities that it'll work eventually.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. Thank you. Appreciate coming on here with you, Richard. It was fantastic.
A little bit last minute, but next time we'll plan it out a bit and maybe do it on your channel. But yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on, Jack. And I'll be staying on to answer questions. But yeah, Jack, thanks so much for popping in, and happy Easter, man.
Happy Easter, and thank you to everybody that came in today and asked the questions and watched us. Appreciate that. And again, everyone have a happy Easter if you celebrate, and take care. Good luck this week.
All right. Yep. See you, Jack.
Oh, Riley. All right, cool. Richard, take care, man. Happy Easter.
Yep. Bye.
Bye bye. By the way, Richard, nobody noticed my.
Oh, we're still live. We're still live. Sorry.
Oh, we're still live. Hey, everybody! No one noticed I painted my wall
to match mine. Very nice.
It matches. There you go. It matches yours a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. I'm still here, but I'm just going to switch on over to, let me bring up TC2000 and keep on going, and I'll add my face back in right here. So there you go. You should be able to see me. Let me know in the comments if you can, and let's get going. I'm happy to take any other questions of people want to see. Let's see. We've got some, I've seen a couple for CPNG, so we'll bring that up right here. And let me hide this right there. So this looks like a IPO base. It could be rounding here. I don't like the action on this Thursday, breaking expectations a little bit, but it was on lower volume. So this is still pretty early in on its run. But I think they have good growth numbers in Marketsmith. We can check that actually right here. CPNG. Here we go. So yeah, nice sales growth, not profitable just yet. They're a Korean online retail platform, so that's pretty interesting. But so far, still very early in on its run. The IPO base pivot is 69, so it's well off the top here, but definitely something to be watching, especially if you kind of specialize in the IPO type names. I'm happy to answer any questions or take any chart recommendations. I'll probably be on for another 20 or so minutes. But yeah, happy to take anything people want to talk about. I see Raul wants to see CTSH, so let's take a look at that. Scroll out a little bit, get the big picture on the weekly. So overall, in a nice kind of longer term base, you've got some resistance up here, and now popping back to a daily. So it's within this base, within a longer term base, which is constructive. Let's see how deep this was. This was about 13%. So this is kind of a slower mover, a little bit choppy. I like the gap ups on volume here. I don't like this gap down within the base, although it was supported. And yeah, definitely actionable potentially through this pivot. I don't know if it's one that I really be focused on, but definitely something to consider if you're into this name. And let's see actually what they do. And they do custom IT consulting. Not the strongest estimates, but the revisions are strong. Pretty flat fund ownership, but in one high quality fund. So near a stage 1B cup. So yeah, something to consider. Let's see, I'm just reading the questions here. Yeah, QFIN. QFIN is definitely one to go over. So Let's take a look in here. This is kind of in the same space as Futu and Tiger. Yeah, financial fintech, basically. Excuse me. So this is definitely choppy here. Very strong move from the stage 2 cup, but really wide and loose on this right-hand side and not a great close. So for me, this needs kind of a proper base. If you're buying it off the 50, the first pullback to the 50 after the breakout, it's potentially actionable back here. But it's not something I'm really focused on. If we look at it in TC2000, it had a 3-bar break here. This would have been a pretty good spot to buy it on strength, but if it pulls back to the 50, that's another potential setup. But overall, it's a young stock. I like how it's right near this area, so it's finding support right at its prior green line, which is the high from way back here, and it's back above that level. So maybe a retest, form out another U shape, and then challenge these all-time highs. That could be actionable. Let's see. We've got a question from Felix. Hey, Richard, do you take the market cap into account when doing your watch list? I do take into account. I want to know that a stock is big enough that it's kind of a more mature company, but also not too big, meaning that it doesn't have a nice runway. So a Google is going to be way harder to get a double out of than apps was back in 2020, just because the market caps here, there's so much room to run. Back when it was a $2 billion company, that can turn into a $7 billion company much easier than a Google can turn into a $2 trillion company. So, or it might already be like that, but basically it's easier to double a smaller company versus a bigger company. So that's kind of my views on that. I'm mostly focused in the 2 billion to 25, 50 billion range. That's kind of my wheelhouse. Let's see. We've got a question from Starboy. How many stocks do you traditionally keep at one point in time? I like to concentrate in about 10 to 8 stocks. That's kind of my comfort level and my risk level. And yeah, I see Doku a lot. So let's take a look at DocuSign. Oh, I can't spell today. And this is in a longer term base. We can draw this line over right here. It's back near the 200 level, which it's hit a bunch of times. So it's definitely chopping around a little bit. It's below the 200 day, which I don't like. And like we kind of said, Jack and I, about Neo, Peloton, buying back near the 200 day isn't really my wheelhouse. I like buying strength when it's in a long uptrend and bouncing off those key moving averages. This is kind of the period that I like to be involved with the stock versus when it's within its base and building out a base. This could go sideways for a few months more, and that would be completely normal. It is one to keep watching because it is a prior leader. Great growth estimates as well, strong fund ownership. But for me, it's not on my radar just yet. I'll have an alert set at the 200 day and this level right here. And basically, if it breaks through that, it'll pop up on my radar, and I'll potentially look for a setup at that point. Yeah, and somebody just pointed out, Jason, this is only a 50 RS rating. So I'm looking for 90 RS rating. This has just gone sideways for about 8 months now. Let's see. What time frames do you use for technical analysis? That's a great question. So the main one I'm on during the day is the daily. I'll look to watch the price movements. I'll also go to a weekly and monthly to kind of get the longer term perspective. And then all the way down to when I'm potentially buying shares, I'll look at the 65, the 30, and the 15, just to kind of time my entry a little bit and get a feel for the volume coming in. On a 30-minute chart, if I see huge blue bars, that shows me that there's a lot of interest at that point, and that's usually a better point to get in intraday. So yeah, if I'm looking at the key levels on the daily and weekly, and then seeing how the volume is coming in on those intraday charts. Let's see, GMBL. I think there's a faster mover one. Let's go to a daily here. So yeah, tight against that 50. Let's look at this. How far is it off the top? This base was about 50% deep, but it is kind of within the character of the stock. This is a very fast mover. This is not for everybody, and looks like it just kind of got a lot more volume coming in. So I don't know if this was a SPAC or or what have you, but it's definitely a riskier stock than a kind of a larger cap name. And let's actually go over to Marketsmith and put this in. It's below $1 billion. I would not be interested in this stock. It's just a little bit too small for me. This is gonna be very whippy. No real fundamentals. Only 8 funds in here. This is not my type of stock. This is pretty low quality in my view. Let's see. Somebody's asking about a high-tech flag. A high-tech flag is doubled in 2 to 8 weeks, not correcting more than 15% as a basis. It's not quite 15%. I believe the max it can be is 28%, but ideally you want less than 20%. Another question from Starboy about Intel versus AMD. Let's bring up that. Intel for now is actually showing, this is a huge double bottom. Wow, let's go to a weekly. It's been chopping around for quite some time now, but recently is in a nice uptrend while AMD is back near its 40 week. So I don't really have the key expertise to know which will do better. Both are in focus right now because the semiconductors are doing so well. AMD is way back at its 200, so if that's your style, you can pick it up there. Intel is a little bit closer to the top of a prior base. You can see it's right near a pivot. So it depends on your style. I think AMD has a little bit better growth fundamentals, definitely, and nice fund ownership. But Intel is definitely one to consider as well. Let's see. What's my pullback buying strategy? I like buying pullbacks to the 21 EMA and then seeing tight price action against that level and then buying on strength using that 21 EMA as my stop. Kosh asked a question, how significant is management ownership for you, if at all? I like seeing that a company is founder-led. I think that just provides kind of more motivation for the company to do well. We saw so many great companies do well who are founder-led, Peloton, Zoom. But in terms of management, I like to see that there's some management percentage, but that's not really the most important variable for me. Really, the price action, the growth fundamentals, the fund ownership, that's much more important. We've got a question here. I know CanSlim says to buy the breakout / pivot point. How do you guys feel about buying pullbacks? Do you have any strategies to scale in around support levels? Definitely CanSlim it also includes pullback buying. If you miss the first breakout, the first pullback to the 21 to the 50 are usually good low risk entries, especially in very strong stocks. And often you can get a better risk reward relationship buying pullbacks versus the breakouts because not everybody's focused on that stock at that time, and you can manage your risk a little bit better against that key level. Let's see, any other questions, guys, or I can go through some more stocks. We've got here HYLN, I see. Oh, typing it in wrong again. This is an EV stock. It's so far off its highs that I'm not going to look at that just because I don't think I would not be trading this stock just because its RS rating is a 1. It's so far off its highs. You can be involved back here, but once it breaks the 50, breaks the 200, drops 80% off its highs, I'm not really interested. Let's see, COHR I'm seeing. So let's take a look at this. Nice gaps here. I wonder why it's gapping so often. That's a little bit interesting, but nice earnings estimates here. Not the greatest quarterly earnings, and decreasing fund ownership. So a little bit outside my wheelhouse, but it is in a top leadership group. This is very important to me, so that's very interesting. And I like those estimates. So definitely want to be on your radar. Let's take a look at the weekly and monthly. So it's below all-time highs, which does mean it's a little bit worse in terms of supply and demand, but it's close-ish to that top. So yeah, definitely want to consider. I am wondering about all these gap ups. What's going on? I don't know if this is traded overseas or something. It's just a representation, but yeah, we'll see. QRVO, yeah, that's definitely a good one to watch. I believe they're involved with semiconductors, 5G, definitely a lot of potential catalysts, and they just broke out on Thursday from the stage 1 base. So We've got a little bit of ascending base here, and then nice consolidation against the 50 and a breakout on above average volume. Not explosive volume, but still very strong. And this is definitely actionable on Thursday. And if it pulls back to the pivot, stays there early next week, definitely actionable again. Let's see. RXT. I believe this was on my focus list a while back, but it kind of had a largest cup and handle. But yeah, it's setting up again. Nice cup and handle breakout, stage 2. Right near all-time highs. This looks pretty good. Good estimates, although revisions are down, which is one knock against this. Slightly decreasing fund ownership and no high-quality funds, but you've got nice earnings growth, both in terms of quarterly and annual. So yeah, not too bad. This is a computer software enterprise, so not a top group at the moment, but it has led in the past. And yeah, a cup and handle breakout on decent volume, and we'll see if it can challenge these all-time highs. We've got a question here. Do you wait for volume confirmation intraday or focus on more entry price against pivot? If it breaks through the pivot, I'm watching the volume buzz, which is the indicator in TC2000 that shows up right here. That basically tells me intraday whether a stock is above average volume and by how much. So if this is showing 100% that volume buzz at the time of the breakout, that's ideal. That means there's double the volume that day so far. But if you see 500%, 1000%, UPST on this day had enormous volume, I think 3000% volume buzz. That adds to my confidence that the breakout will work because there's institutional buying going on if there's that many shares being traded. Let's see, I'm seeing a lot of edit. So actually, yep, edit. So this is pretty far off its highs. I was interested back here. It was actually on my watch list before this nice breakout. And I also I tried to actually here, got stopped out on this day. Now it's back at the 200. So this is kind of, if this is kind of your style, potentially actionable. It's also near a pretty key level, the prior green line, which was set back here. It did get rejected on Thursday at that level, but potentially bottoming here. We'll see what happens. But like I said, a lot of these stocks that are at their 200 days well off their highs. You can see this is 60% off its highs. This is not in my wheelhouse. I'm trying to buy stuff shaping up the right side of their bases and break out to new all-time highs. Flash asked, does TC2000 show volume relative to the time of day? Morning breakouts will show false high volume readings unless adjusted for time of day. Yeah, the volume buzz takes everything into account, the time of day, all of that. They've got their own proprietary algorithm and everything. But it takes into account the normal volume at 9:45, at 10 a.m., what have you. For entries, what do you think about using volume by price on an intraday basis, market profile levels, or are you just watching only price break-even level on volume? I'm not usually using the volume by price. Those volume shelves can be very helpful for pullback buys, but I personally don't really use that too much. Let's see. InMode is a good one to look at. This is on my focus list this past week. A nice breakout here, and overall nice follow through as well. It's not yet at all-time highs, but pretty close to it. And you could expect maybe some consolidation here, some inside days, and then a breakout. That would be ideal, but definitely looks very promising. Let's take a look at the growth numbers. You can see last quarter earnings up over 100%, sales up 60%, decent estimates, nice fund ownership increase, and one high quality fund in there as well. I was involved near the IPO run here. That was a nice quick 20-30%, but then it had a nice long correction set up and formed a nice consolidation again. So we'll see what happens. Definitely a young stock with promising growth numbers. What is my stop loss strategy? Usually I'm looking for a max loss less than 5%, ideally 3% if possible. And I usually set it at the low of the day when I buy it, or the low of the week, whatever kind of the relevant level is kind of how I'll play against it. Oh, great suggestion. My bad again. 4 is definitely a promising one. This is kind of a reopening play as well, since a lot of restaurants use their services, their payment services, and overall nice bounce off the 50 a few times here. It is still within its kind of IPO advance phase, so it still needs that kind of longer term correction before it can really find its institutional due diligence phase. But stock can have this run for quite a while. If we go to AYX and go to a monthly, it ran basically for 2 years before this longer term correction. So 4 definitely looks promising. It's in a good space. And going back to the daily, a bounce off the 50 is a pretty good entry point on the stock. And iCAD, let's see that. Looks like it was rejected at its breakout on Thursday, so that's a red flag, although it was on lower volume. And you can see this breakout was also on lower volume. So I would probably not take this breakout just because it's on low volume. No real growth numbers, increasing fund ownership, that's a good thing. One high quality fund, that's good, but not really the quarterly earnings or annual estimates that I look for. And let's bring it out to a monthly. And you can see this is just in a longer, this hasn't gone anywhere in decades. So not really in my wheelhouse. It is in a nice uptrend at this point. But I would like to see it closer to all-time highs. And I don't know if we can go to yearly or anything, but yeah, it's just been going sideways for years. I like buying stuff that's a little bit newer, recent IPOs within the last 10 years, and in longer-term uptrends. Let's see. Somebody asked about my favorite semi setup. On my focus list video, I talked about Kopin. This descending trend line, potentially a nice inside day on Thursday. A lot of them have already gone. Ideally, you want to be in the leaders, which is AMAT, LRCX that have already broken out strongly. And you can see this is a stage 2 base, RS new high as well. That's this blue dot right here. But Kopin is also potentially actionable. Nice earnings this past quarter, not the greatest estimates, and decreasing fund ownership, which is a potential caution sign for me. But we'll see. This could be pretty good for a quick swing trade. Let's see. See if there's any questions. Do you use volume profile? I talked about it a little bit. I think it's very useful to kind of identify key levels, but often you can just kind of see it on the chart where stocks have found support, bounced, and kind of found resistance. So I don't use it too much, but definitely it's a great tool to have. Yeah, UCTT is also a super strong semiconductor, and this space in general is very good. You can see a nice breakout on Thursday. CCIV, I believe that's a SPAC. I think it's pretty far off all-time highs. I would not be interested in this. Huge gap down on volume. I think it just needs time. So I'm not really interested in this stock. Good question here. How many hours do you typically spend on daily and weekly review? Can you compare your review efficiency when you got started versus right now? Probably on the weekends, it's about a few hours each day, about three hours. Daily, probably an hour after the market closed, just to make sure I keep track of my holdings, stocks that are interesting, and anything potentially setting up for the next week or the next day, sorry. But yeah, that's kind of my time constraints. CDNS, I believe that's also semiconductor related, or actually it's computer software design. Yeah, moving up the right side of the base nicely. Good power the past 2 days. So yeah, this looks pretty good. Nice earnings, decent estimates, nice increasing fund ownership, and high quality sponsorship. This looks pretty good. It's not quite sure what base it is. Let me do this. Is a stage 2B base? Yeah, so early stage. Yeah, this definitely looks decent through about 150 here. RVLV, I see a lot of messages about that. And by the way, thanks to everybody who's shown up and asked me great questions. You guys are awesome. And if you are enjoying the stream, please go ahead and leave a like down below. It does help me out and my channel. And let's talk about RVLV. So going to a weekly, this failed its green line breakout, but so far is finding support near its 50-day moving average. So that is one positive. and this kind of failure was on lowish volume. So we'll see if it can retake that key level, which if we go back to the weekly is at 48.36. So that's a key level for my type of trading. And like I said, this is kind of in the turbulence zone like SLQT. So it could chop around here for quite a while and then finally head up. But we'll see what happens. It has to break out to all-time highs before it will go anywhere. So keep that in mind. Corsair, let's take a look at Corsair. So this is definitely in a longer term base, but I'm still keeping a decent eye on it just because it undercuts this base well. It formed a higher low, which I like, and especially challenging this pivot, but kind of like Neo and Peloton, it's not high up on my list and my focus just because it's so far from all-time highs and was very choppy in here, but strong prior uptrend, great growth numbers, not the strongest estimates, nice increase of fund ownership, but no high quality funds. So we'll see what happens with this stock. PPD, let's see this. Looks like they have a standard pivot of 3863 and is a stage 1B. And I think this is within its kind of turbulence zone, or essentially it's just above it at this point. So this looks promising. Provider of drug development, laboratory services, and decent earnings, fund ownership. So definitely worth considering here on this breakout. Michael asks, how many stocks do you usually hold? Do you pyramid into new positions? Does each stock in your portfolio have unequal weighting? Does volatility of stock impact your position sizing? Good question. Great questions. I usually hold 8 to 10 stocks. I do pyramid up into them as it starts working to me, trying to get a 10 to 12% weighting. If a stock's a recent IPO, very volatile, I'll kind of I'll decrease my position so that volatility impacts my portfolio just a little bit less. And yeah, great questions, Michael. Other than TC2000 Marketsmith, what tools or scanners do you use daily, weekly? I use Marketsmith, TC2000, and Excel. Pretty much that's all I use. The IVD stock screener is great if you can't afford Marketsmith. It is a pretty high quality platform that's pretty expensive. So the IVD stock screener is a great solution to that. FinViz is decent. Some of the numbers don't quite match up with Marketsmith, and yeah, Marketsmith and TC2000 are my main two. Let's see. Hey John, do you like Mara? All right, John, we'll cover Mara just because you keep mentioning it. Let's see. So this is Bitcoin related, very volatile, good sales. I think SI is the leader here. They just kind of have the better fundamentals and they have the quality sponsorship here. Let's take a look at this in Mara. Trading in the Zone, Marco, is a good book for trading mindset. I think that's a good one. So it's right at this breakout point. We'll see if this holds. It is straight off the bottom from the 50 days, so maybe it kind of pulls back here to 21 EMA to this prior pivot, and then potentially a nice move down and then move up. That would be a pretty good entry point right as it finds support at the level and starts confirming to the upside. Profit taking strategy, I like using the kind of 21 to 23 EMA as my kind of line in the sand. As long as it kind of stays above that key level, I want to hold as much as I can of my core. But if it does get extended above it, I've got the percentage above the 21 EMA usually up here in my toolbar. If that gets too extended, I'll take some off the table and potentially add back when it pulls back to the 21. So that's kind of how I manage my position. I usually cut my stock when it breaks this key level or the 50. We go back to Neo. I bought in here, sold a little bit up here, entered a few times, and ultimately was out of my position here, entered back in here, cut a little bit as it broke the 21, and then cut the rest of it as it broke the 50. So I use the 21, the 50 as my kind of lines in the sand for taking profits and managing my position. Let's see, Snow. So this is another one that's kind of a bottom fish play. It just undercuts the IPO low and moved up from there. But like I said, it's very far from all-time highs, so not one I'm focused too much on. Yes, Alvaro, this is TC2000. This is a charting platform, and I think it's great. You can also scan for any type of conditions you want. You can make your own indicators. You can set a bunch of different types of charts that you can quickly go to. And this screen right here is Marketsmith. It's also fantastic. And I use it for data, checking the fundamental numbers, the earnings, sales, market cap, after-tax margins, all of that. And you can also scan for a whole bunch of different conditions. Yeah, you can go through all of these and use that to narrow down their database of stocks. Let's see. All right, guys, I think I'm going to be winding down because I have to watch the Man United game, as Pat Pro Movies has mentioned. But thank you guys all for tuning in, and I hope you guys keep your questions. If I didn't get to them for the next one, I'll try to do this weekly from now on. So make sure if I didn't answer your question, you bring it up in the next one. And I'll see you guys in future videos. Make sure, if you haven't yet, to watch my weekly watch list video. I think that would answer a lot of your guys' questions as I see them coming in. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming in. Leave a like down below if you did enjoy, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And have a great rest of your weekend. For those of you who celebrate Easter, happy Easter, and I'll see you guys later.